Well, it's actually a few months ago that I actually disassembled this mechanism to repair the motors and find out what was wrong. And I think it was sort of working then. And just the other day I replaced the belts when they arrived, and that's all I did. So my assumption was that I did a really good job the first time round, and obviously I didn't. I repaired some motors, of course, but what I failed to check, or it seemed okay at the time, was in play mode. These are the springs for the idler wheels. You see how slow that is to come up to the capstan. In fact, it doesn't even reach it. That's the take up, and the supply one, that's really slow. So obviously the shafts for the pinch roller arms is not happy. Need to be disassembled and cleaned and re-oiled. I haven't really wanted to do too much to this assembly because I just wanted to get it working, get the whole thing working, and then decide what to do, even if it meant taking this out all again and pulling it apart completely. I'm not a great fan of totally pulling everything apart straight away. I'd like to see that the machine is worthwhile and that it sort of works. Now, I was getting sound, so it's encouraging, but I thought there was a problem with the cam and the mechanism, but no, I think it's purely because these idler wheels aren't properly engaging onto the capstan. So I need to clean them or oil them. Now, if I can oil them without cleaning them at the moment, I'll be happy to do that, I think. Don't really feel like pulling it all apart at the moment. I'm trying to see where the sleeve is that I can either get a drop of oil down or something. Oh, in fact, the pinch roller is actually jamming up against a metal plate there, the take-up one. There's no way it can even get near it. Oh, it can, but it's close. That can't be right. Oh, it's not right. Oh, it's way off the mark. Oh, it's totally out of line with the heads. Oh, no wonder it's jamming. And the other one, the supply one is all right. That's in the right position, pretty much. The take-up one is totally wrong. Wonder what happened. Yes, that should be further in. Yeah, it's totally out of adjustment. It's almost as if the thread is stripped on it or something. And it's pulled out. It's further. Yes, all right. Okay, we're getting closer. Don't know if you can see in there, but the supply one, the bottom of the supply idler pivot comes out, and you can just see a little bit of metal there past the plastic thing, just there. But up here, it's right in. And that's not how it should be. So Well, the first thing, I'll just see if it does pull out slightly. No. Alright. Something else. You can also see that it's off because this spring is straight and this spring is bent up, which means, as I'm saying, the idler wheel for the take up is too much high that way. Deary me. Alright. Well, I may not be able to escape taking this all apart. I think I'm going to have to take it apart much more. That's a shame. Okay, so take it round to the stop position. Now, I thought I'd try and take off this plate where all the adjustments are, but to do that I have to undo this. Oh dear. I hope this will come off in one piece. Alright, that goes under there, right. Okay, so now try not to twist it too much. Leave it there. Okay, here we come. So this obviously means that everything's going to have to be adjusted, all the height and depth and azimuth and you name it. So be it. Okay. Right. And why is this too high? Let's see if we can go around to play. PY through the window there. Now let's see what we can see. It's all very dirty and everything. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this whole thing needs to be cleaned, maybe even ultrasonicked. Well, I don't know why this has gone up in height. It shouldn't have, but it's definitely wrong. Maybe the mount down the bottom is broken loose. I'm wondering how to pull apart the pivot for the... It's as if the bottom has collapsed. I might look at the diagrams of it. Well, it seems this top brass doohickey on top of the shaft is a adjustment nut, but it's it looks a little bit different to what's in the manual. But if it's an adjustment nut, it's an adjustment nut. So let's see if it will turn. It's got a slot just on one side, which is really weird. What I'm hoping is that I can actually take, this keeps getting in the way, is to take out the whole thing, and even if I have to, I'll take the spring off, even if I have to glue it into the chassis, we can't have it keep coming out. Right. Right. Yeah. Unless they're just clamps and they don't actually screw. So, but I thought it said screw, not just adjustable. That's a silly thing to do. Okay, it does come off, and indeed it's just a clamp. Oh dear. How the hell is that meant to be adjustable? Alright, at least I know now. So this should just now be able to work its way loose. Yeah, it's seized to buggery. They both are actually. By being seized, that's probably why it's come loose down the bottom. There's too much friction and it just wore away at the plastic. Yes, that'll be why. So everything's in the way, of course. Oh, it is stuck. It is stuck. We have a little problem here. The supply roller, I think I can take that off and grease and oil it. But this one here, the take-up one, it's actually seized on the shaft, and I seem to be unable. I need a pulley puller really to be able to pull that off. As you can see, what happens is it's the pinch roll is right up at the top of the capstan. That's what was happening. So the question is, how can I get this piece of cast metal off this shaft? Now, ideally the best way would be to heat this, but the trouble is it's mounted through a plastic sleeve, like one of these, hole like that, and that should have been how it was stuck, but it's actually moving. So I'm not sure how to get this off. Two ways. One is I find a means of levering it off with a lot more force. Secondly, I pull the whole thing through, and then I can heat it with impunity. And then when I've finished with it, I can push it back in, and I believe I will have to glue it back into position. There's no escaping that. Otherwise it will just do the same thing again. Or at least maybe not hard glue, but maybe just a soft glue might be even enough. It is a interference fit. Actually, it might be alright just as it is. Just unseize it and it might be alright actually, but no, it's hard to trust it. Well, I managed to get the shaft out. That's it there. And this cast iron pivot is seized onto the shaft. What happened was it was spinning in the plastic base, and while it was spinning, the spring, which is used for adjusting it, was gradually pushing it out, and eventually it just sat up really far too high, all because of a seized shaft. So got to try and clear all the oil. I used a little bit of oil to try and make it move, and so now I have to get rid of all that. Well, I managed to, goes in there, I managed to get the shaft out of the pivot arm for the idler wheel. Sorry, for the, the capstan pinch roller, that's right. And it's very stiff, so I'm going to clean this up as much as I can and just find out how good it is. So I've sprayed some contact cleaner down the hole there to try and get rid of any oil that might have been there. That's pretty clean now. However, the shaft isn't so good, so got this little M3 screw which I used to hammer it out, and it actually makes a really good rasp for down the hole. Just a perfect size. If I had to reconstruct all of this, I would actually use this M3 screw and put a nut on the other side, etc. It's got a shaft up the top there where it can sit on, and you could just screw it in or out for the height, but that's a very last resort. Very last resort. I think it'll work out all right. Only the shaft will fit down. Okay, well it actually goes around it now. I've got a couple of burrs that I've put on the shaft, so I'll have to try and scrape them off somehow. Here we go, a little bit of emery paper. Still catching a little bit. Can't feel anything on there, so it must be in the hole. Goodness. Yeah, it's just full of hard corrosion. Goodness. I think it's grabbing on where I grabbed it with the pliers. Needs a bit more. It's certainly a tight fit. I think that's pretty good now. It feels it down the bottom, but it will never be down there. Now the question is, do we put this down here or what? Well, it's actually a pretty tight fit. What is it? Yeah, no, it's. I think I can just put it straight back in. It's actually quite a tight fit. It was just so seized before that it didn't want to move. Now the question is, how far in do I go? That's the same length. So why was it jutting out? I think what we'll do, I'll measure it to be the same as the supply one. I think that should do the trick. Oh no, it actually, it sits quite differently. Oh dear. Oh, okay. Oh no, it has to go down a lot further. A lot further. Oh dear. Okay. Days. The best way might be to put it all back together and then hammer it down. So so much. Okay, now a little bit more. Right, I match the other one now. On goes the washer. Now we put a drop of oil in there. Right, yeah. I'm going to have to clean it off the shaft as I do it. Okay, so there it is. It's spinning pretty well. The spring goes there and it goes in. But because there's oil on this, I need to clean that off. Right, the spring on with the little hook at the bottom. And now we place it in. The spring goes in a little hole there. Little tiny hole. Really tiny. Somewhere there. Pair of calipers. I might have pushed it just a bit too far, so I'm going to measure the depth of the supply pinch roller and make the other one the same. So right, 15.7 to the plate. Oh, actually go a little bit more. Oh, all right. Strange way of adjusting, isn't it? Now what do we do? Well, I'll just verify this just to make absolutely sure. Right, 15.9, 16.1. 14.7, 15. So maybe a millimetre up. So we'll just give it one more little tap. 16.3, close enough. Alright, so what I've done is I've reassembled this. This screw just on the top is not a screw at all, it's a clamp. And you have to clamp it in the right position to get the right height. And you separate it using the little slit there to widen it to take it out. But it's a really terrible system. That is terrible. Oh, unbelievably terrible. But unfortunately the other side, where because it had seized, has got a bit loose. Now, don't know if you can see, but there is the supply spindle for the pinch roller. It's still a bit tight, but it should be all right. It's not as loose as the one I just did, but I don't really want to pull that one apart. I'll put another drop of oil in there. Now, as I was saying, this is the supply spindle for the pinch roller pivot, and it's only just pressed into this plastic. This is the take-up spindle for the pinch roller pivot, and you can see it's quite different, but nonetheless it's down there. Now it's quite possible that that little indent in the shaft was meant to be how far you pushed it down. That could well be. but since I've already adjusted it, yeah, okay, yeah, I've got it about 1mm to fire up the shaft here, the clamp, so that's probably why I'm 1mm down there, but I'm not going to change that now. It should be fine. The pinch roller is the same height as the supply pinch roller, so it should be fine. Now what I'm going to do is use some quick grip and just lob it in there to stop it from coming out, or at least easily coming out. It'll help to contain it. It's the consistency of really thick snot. Alright. If you wanted something more permanent, you'd use a 5-minute araldite, but I'm loath to use such permanent things for these, unless it's panel work or something. Now, this little spring should go back on. There we go. Terrific. This one's a little bit slower, but it'll be fine, at least for a while. No, it should be fine. Should be fine. We put the little guide back on. Now we put the screw on. Yeah, just to remove some of the grease oil that's collected. Now before I screw this back on, I'll put a bit of nail polish on the tops here, stop them from moving, and also on where I unscrewed the guide. Now, these pinch rollers, I'm going to very carefully just put 1 drop of oil in each. Okay, now we have to put the cover back on. Okay, I think with a bit of luck we might finally have it all done. So, do that, put a tape in, press play, which is move this thing around. Yes. And we have the pinch rollers on the capstans. Yay! Yay! Alright, that's good. So, go back to stop. S for stop. Right, I wish it was a bit easier than that little window in there. There's a spring in the way, and when it's in play, this plastic is in the way, so... oh well, it is what it is. Right, now, I think it's all a goer now. Springs on, that's all it's on. Yeah. Yeah, alright. Right, I'll put it back in the machine and we'll see what happens.